You know what I'm a fan of? Frozen pot pies, frozen chicken pot pies. Those are
feel like a
real
medieval
good.
king.
Yeah.
Or not even like, maybe not a peasant, somewhere in between. Like a high rated blacksmith would have that for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see that article about what a peasant normally ate during the medieval days? And it looked surprisingly good. It looked like they were eating really well. I thought they were eating gruel, but apparently some article said they used to eat well.
Yeah, it's I just believe it or not did a medieval episode that will be coming out the day after this comes
Historian?
out. Yeah, historian that wrote some books on medieval times and a lot of it a lot of stuff that turned into myth over time. There were no turkey legs. You know the thing, you go to go to like a Renaissance fair and the main thing is like, well, if you don't get a turkey leg, you haven't even been to a Renaissance fair.
I thought that was the only thing they ate.
No turkeys.
And then the king had
did
grapes.
Not have turkeys.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of it was when Protestants or whatever started taking over, they wanted to separate them. So it was like, this is a new era. Those Catholics, those were the evil times, those bad Catholics, and separate. And that's how it just got. It's a period of 1,000 years, which I didn't know either. I thought it was like medieval times, like 100 or a couple hundred years. I know nothing about history whatsoever. Like modern history. And so
you know the
like,
large scale.
I didn't know it was like 1,000 years, which is just. And then there's just a lot of things that. Oh, here was a fun thing because I was talking to her. She had built a trebuchet in her backyard.
Oh, you only know that as a font.
It's like the catapult with the like rope on it that also slingshots things.
Gotcha.
And so then we got talking about it, and she was talking about this one during some war. I guess there's like a movie made about this. There was an invading force showed up to this castle with a trebuchet that was so gigantic that the whole castle just surrendered immediately. Nice. And then the attacking thing was like, they were like, well, we
gotta use one.
we brought this whole fucking thing. And so they launched a few things. And then they're like, okay, you can surrender now that we got to use
so funny.
Would you get it? There's been a lot of horrific atrocities in human history, especially like the period of time, like the advent of agriculture and then the first kingdoms. When people first got to be kings, like they didn't know how to handle that power, and it was horrifying. But that's a fun.
Yeah,
I like that. As far as horrific acts go, that's a fun one that I'm like, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect them to not toss a couple over.
Yeah, you toss a couple.
Was it on fire? Or just regular, like just boulders or something?
I think they were 2-ton boulders.
Wow.
That's a car. Yeah. And did some real damage.
I wonder what people sounded like back then, because you can never truly know. You can only know what people talk like about 100 years ago. Everything else is just hearsay. But was their voice higher? Was it lower? Did it sound cool? Did it sound like an annoying shrew? Because, you hear like how Abraham Lincoln talked like a tea kettle, and he had a high, like Jordan Peterson voice. And it whistled a little bit, and no one could hear him at the Gettysburg Address.
Voice?
He did, and Daniel Day-Lewis did a great job depicting him, because all the other Lincoln movies, he was like, I declare the end of slavery, because I am the alpha male, and I am the big... And then the Daniel Day-Lewis one is like, God damn it all, I cannot take one more minute of this slavery. You will procure those votes. My God, man. He says buzzard's guts. Buzzard's guts, man. You will procure me those votes. I am the president of the United States, clothed in immense power. But he's intimidating when he says it, because like the way it's Daniel Day-Lewis, he can embody anything, even a high-pitched depressed guy voice that's trying to end slavery.
You want to hear a fun Abe Lincoln related story? There is, so I shouldn't mention these names, but I'm going to anyway, because we just established no one's listening to this overly produced show. I used to date this comic April Macy. Mm-hmm. And she had before that dated Gary Goldman at one point. We're Eskimo brothers. Well, they had a fight one time where what happened was, and April was super funny in this way. Like, she's very good at making fun of you. Like, I loved it. I love getting made fun of. And so I always thought it was hilarious, but not everyone likes being made fun of constantly. But
Gary Goldman is a depressed person, or maybe he's conquered it, but you know, it's part of his brand is depression.
And one day they were driving to a gig, and Gary says to her, "Hey, do you think that I could play Abe Lincoln in a movie?" And then she just started laughing hysterically. And then he got very, very upset. This is her telling of the story. So, you know, whatever. He got very, very upset about it. And it turns out that it's always been his dream to play Abe Lincoln in a movie. And he's like defending it like, I'm not saying it needs to be a Hollywood blockbuster or whatever.
How old was he?
I mean, this is a long time ago.
Okay, you know? If you're in your late 20s, early 30s, that's acceptable. But you can't dream about portraying old presidents as a grown person. You should just dream of not having a negative diagnosis at your checkup.
I mean, it's probably like 15 years ago or something like that.
Okay, just on the cusp. Give him a little grace period because he's a comedian.
I love Gary Goldman, by the way. He's a talented comedian and he's hilarious. Of course. I'm not mocking him, but this is an amazing story.
Because she was imagining him as like puffed out chest man, and he's probably a student of history and knows that Abraham Lincoln was the depressed president and like has terrible posture and is unsure of himself. And he's probably like, yeah, I could be that. And April Macy is like, oh, the guy on the $5 bill? Yeah, right. He's on the $5 bill. Is he the 5? I think he's the 5. I need more than one.
No. Isn't he on a coin? No, he's not on a $5 bill.
He's on the 5? No. Who's on the 5 then?
Isn't it Andrew Jackson? I don't
Jackson's
know
on the 20. Jackson's on the 20.
You're right.
Abraham is on the 5 and the penny. He got 2. Abraham. Isn't that weird? We look at these strange papers all the time. They have weird occult symbols on it. The occult symbols, which we just either write off completely or get too intense with and become Nicolas Cage. And it's like the Illuminati is communicating to us through this eye of the pyramid. Right. And it's probably both. It's probably like, it goes back to secret societies that know something, but probably not to the level of deviance that a movie portrays. That would be too fun. It'd be too fun if they had a magic eye that floats above a pyramid that knows everything. Yeah, it's probably just these apes that are stupid and have to go to the bathroom every day and get cancer.
Yeah, of course, that's what it is. And then the stories get grander over time because the best storytellers are rewarded in social circles.
But if you had to explain to someone what, like, okay, why are all these images on the money? Like, you can't even explain why the person is on it.
How did seeing it now? I'm like, that made me. I had to Google it, and then I saw Abe Lincoln's face on a 5, and I'm like, am I the dumbest person alive that I've been staring at this my whole life? And I thought it was Andrew Jackson or something.
Andrew Jackson's the 20.
I didn't actually think of
Andrew Jackson has some fun stories.
Holy smokes.
I think he's the guy that challenged. Yeah, the dueling guy, and someone shot him, and since guns weren't as powerful as they are today, they're just little, like, you know, musket powdered, like little tiny dented ball that like sometimes penetrates the skin, and it went in him and it stayed in him for the next 20 years. He just went back to work that day.
Yeah. You want to hear about American history? This is not the podcast for you. I shouldn't say I don't give a fuck. I would like to know more, but there's only so much you can know. And everyone, if you study history, it's like, ooh, I watched a World War II documentary. I'm big into history. That's what that means to most people.
And it's less verifiable, right, than learning about evolutionary biology. You can kind of piece that together, whereas this is all like we're studying written words by the victors, and it's whitewashed here, and this culture is erased, and so on. Yeah,
I mean, I should be cautious about like saying, oh, this thing that I'm less interested in than other subjects is an irrelevant subject.
But even
the
Dan
best
Carlin
ones are the ones that I am interested in.
Which they are.
Yeah.
But, except for mine. The ones I'm interested are number one. You're number two.
Yeah.
And then, what's his name? Yeah, Dan Carlin from Hardcore History. He'll preface episodes with like, well, we don't know what happened with the Spartans and the Persians. Like, there's no way we know this is the true story. But this is the main like story that goes around. So I'm just going to like embellish this and tell you this story. But yeah, of course, this is however many thousand years ago. We don't know. No. So he always prefaces it with that. He's not like, this is history. This is what happened.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's so much lost. And yeah, it's, I don't trust it for the most part, but anyhow, here's how that story ended, by the way. I think that they got to a comedy club that they're both on together. And Gary like was on stage before April and like did material about how his girlfriend's like not supportive enough or something like that. And then she got on and just told everyone the story of what happened in the car.
Checkmate.
And crushed. And he just left. He yelled from the back of the room, "Find your own way home." And
that's not very Abe of him.
That's definitely not what Abe Lincoln
Abe would have given his carriage and walked home in the rain.
Yeah, he was very patient with his significant other, despite some issues. Which I wonder if that's even true. Where they're like, Abe Lincoln's wife was a real Looney Tune. Oof, that guy put up with a lot.
Yeah, who knows?
Because that's the thing, right? Like
that she was crazy.
Wife,
yeah, Sally did just something. Or no, I think maybe she was just played by Sally Field, and I'm remembering her as Sally. Her name was like Henriette Lincoln Logs.
Yeah. So I know nothing about history. I know nothing about personal growth, but I have this survey thing that I thought it'd be fun to do, even though I'm dumb and I don't know anything about it. I'm